Hey guys, and welcome back to another installation into the Yellow Captain Guide. Got a few comments asking about my traits and virtues and what you should build for solo versus group content. Um, there is a few deviations here, so I'll go over three specific builds I think you should know. The first one would be for two-man content, which will crop up once in a while, particularly for Reiko on Throne of Dread Terror. That is a boss you will occasionally want to do just as a two-man to increase the amount of loot you guys get. Then, of course, for a three-man with no red captain, and finally with a full group. So having a full group will mean you don't need to fill the role of sort of the healer in a sense, or the buffer. You can just solely focus on tanking. So the first thing we're going to look at is the two-man build. Fortunately, I don't have a whole lot of slots, so I will just respecialize each time and show you what we're doing here. So we're going to go into Leader of Men. And since this is for particularly Reiko, first thing we're going to do is increase our health. This one is great. Always grab that. You need to go into situational awareness just a little bit so you can get into the next line. You're going to take Threatening Shout. And situational awareness is important because this bleed skill damage is not good for anything in tanking, so you never want to put points in here. So you end up putting 4 points in situational awareness if you take Noble Mark. If you don't take Noble Mark, then you put 5 points in to go into the next line. For this two-man build, we are not going to take Noble Mark, and I'll show you why a little later. So In Harm's Way is great. It's an awesome skill, reduces damage for you and your ally. Routing Cry Stun, this one's not always necessary, but particularly for Reiko, it does help to get the ads off of you. So we'll go Grave Wound Taunt. We'll go for a little bit of crit defense. Turning Point is all right. We're just going to put enough points into these two to get us to the next. Put enough points in here to get us to the next, which end up being 5. Stand Tall, I want to put full points in this. This is for your last stand cooldown. You do not need Fellowship of the Shield because you don't have a fellowship. You just have 2 people. So this is not important. So once again, we're going to put points into these 2 until we get, there we go. And now we have Elendil's Fury, which is your main taunt, and Shield of the Dunedain. And you're basically done with yellow for this two-man. It's not important for the two-man because what you're going to want to be doing is fulfilling the role of a buffer and a tank. So next we're going to go into Bolstered Resolve. Enough points in there to go to the next line. This one is sort of subjective. You can get your instant heal or your instant res or not. If you die on Reiko, it's kind of over, so I don't usually do this. What you want to get is 4 points in there, a point in there, and Rousing Cry buff. You can grab your Gallant Display too. So we're just going into blue line for the Rousing Cry buff because this will give 5% damage to you and your one other ally. So next we're going to go into the red line, get Martial Prowess. That's just some attack duration. You can go React to Battle or you can go Deafening Shouts. React to Battle is much better though. Take Telling Mark because this is the one you're going to be using for Reiko. And you're going to put a couple points into whatever here. It doesn't matter. You're not focused on doing damage. Take Advantageous Attack. It's going to give 5% increased Telling Mark. You're going to have 10% total here. Time of Need, and go ahead and grab Penetrating Cry. So now you have a 15% Routing Cry attack speed buff. So this is a big deal because now you have the 5% from Rousing Cry and 15% attack speed from Penetrating Cry. You have a 10% Telling Mark. And to top it all off, you have Time of Need, which will help you pre-buff for Reiko. So this is a good way to burn Reiko down and also tank it and deal a decent amount of damage. So you do have 5 points left. Some people will only have 90 points. These 5 points are sort of just the extra on top that you can put really anywhere you want. You could fill out and get the Routing Cry stun, and then you could just get these two, and that's about it. That's what you need. So this is sort of the red captain tank build. So you have your buffs, you got your telling mark 10% damage, still have gallant display, and a lot of tankiness from your yellow line. So this is the 2-man, not often do you do this, the 2-man tank build that I would recommend. So let's now go into the 3-man, which is what you saw with AMT5. This is what I typically run. So I'm going to get my points in here to push me over. Need that, need that. Finish that off. Get my Grave Wound taunt. Get in harm's way. Now crit defense is actually useful for AM. So I'm just going to put points in these until I get to my banner. Put 5 in there. You have 3 people, so you do want to get Inspire, which will put 60% of the benefit of Shield Brother onto your allies. So you'll be able to reduce damage for 3 people instead of just your Shield Brother. Now I go almost entirely down this blue tree when I am solo healing, because you're going to need a lot of healing. You're going to want your res. Sorry, you don't need your buff. Gallant display. Words of Courage healing. Don't go into this one because Words of Courage heals so little. So instead we're just going to put our points into Skilled Hands. This unfortunately doesn't work. Honorable Blow. Valiant Strike applies incoming healing buff. You don't have Valiant Strike, so it doesn't work. So you can just go into Area of Effect healing and Courageous Convocation. This is great because this is a Muster Courage heal. So Muster Courage doesn't heal originally, it just applies a fear resistance. With this, it will heal you for a significant amount, anywhere from 100k to 150, and if you crit, maybe even 200k. So this is a huge self-heal for when you're tanking in a 3-man. Very nice. Really, really advantageous. So Astute Hands has a 20% tactical crit multiplier as well as a 5% crit chance. This is great for healing. So get your points in there. It's awesome. You can get your Rallying Roar healing. That's fine. But other than that, you can just put points into the rest of your stuff here. So I do like to take the stun for AM. You can throw a few more points in your basic resistances. So this is crit defense, this is block, and this is incoming healing. So it should basically look like this. The main thing here is to get deep enough in blue to get Courageous Convocation for that self-heal. So that's really nice. And finally, the last trait line that you're going to want to have is for your raid. So for this one, you're going to go pretty deep into yellow. You don't have to, because bosses, you cannot parry, block, or evade boss attacks, so it's not super important. You're not going to be going Noble Mark like ever, because you're always going to want Revealing Mark. The only time you'd go Noble Mark is if you had 2 captain tanks, which doesn't really happen. So I do grab the Routing Cry stun. It's very helpful. The crit defense is awesome. It actually works. Incoming healing is awesome. Block chance you don't need. I haven't been talking about strength in numbers. It hasn't been scaled up to 130, so it's not necessary. Don't grab this ever. Your banner is super important. Your raid-wide Fellowship of the Shield, this is important. It's going to apply to your 2 arms. Very, very helpful. Stand tall, really important. These last 2 very important. So you do have 2 options here. If you have a red captain in your DPS group, they will be covered as far as buffs go. If you have quite a bit of DPS in your tank/healing group, let's say you have a warden, maybe you have a champion in there, you're probably going to want to buff them too. So one option is to go into the blue line, grab your res, grab Revealing Mark, because you're going to be using that a lot. And then you can actually get, there we go, you can get your Gallant Display and you can get Rousing Cry. And then you can go in here into red, and you don't need Telling Mark because your red captain already has it, but you could still get it because there's not a lot of better options here. So let's say I get in there. Now you can get your penetrating cry. So now you can buff your partition of the raid group, and your red captain can buff their partition of the raid group. You don't have a ton of healing with this setup because you haven't put points into skilled hands, you haven't put points into astute hands, you haven't put points into optimism or courageous convocation or rallying roar. You just kind of have the bare minimum points necessary to get your AoE res, your gallant display, and rousing cry. So this is kind of the setup I would recommend, so you can buff your side of the group as well as the red captain buffing their side of the group, so you constantly have these two very major buffs going. This is an awesome setup. Now, you can do the 3-man setup in a raid if you are feeling like maybe you're going to need to heal yourself a lot. If you maybe don't feel like your healers are going to be doing that great of a job on you, you can, if you want, go ahead and go with the self-healing route, and you can heal yourself a ton in raids. I just recommend this because trust your healers. If they're good, they'll be healing you. You don't need to be healing yourself a ton. These buffs are going to make a huge difference. It's 5% damage, 15% attack speed. So this is a huge difference. On boss 1, you can have a revealing mark and a telling mark on Bratha in fire phase, and you can easily swap your telling mark to the ads when they come and then keep it active as soon as you swap it back to the boss, because you have 2 telling marks to alternate between. So this does actually have its uses to have both of these. If that was the case, then you'd also want to get advantageous attack. So you'd want to maybe go less into blue, a little bit more into here. But anyway, sort of a quick and dirty presentation of the 2-man, 3-man, and the raid groups. Now there is a 6-man, which could have a red captain in your same group. If you are a yellow captain, you have a red captain, and then you have 4 others. If that was the case, I just recommend going down the 3-man, which is the self-healing, because you don't need these buffs because your red captain will be buffing your side. So just go for the self-healing, be a little self-indulgent. All right, so I will just go ahead and apply this. Why not? Now let's look at our virtues. So the virtues I have set up are pretty much optimal for yellow. There's not a single one here that you're going to want to swap out when you're in yellow. Tolerance, it gives you tactical mitigation and resistance. Those are 2 of the most important stats for Remerchant. So get this one up to rank 68. Very, very nice. Fidelity, tactical mitigation, and a large stat bump of vitality. Very nice. Extremely nice. Get that one up. Honor, this one kind of gives, this one is sort of a morale bump. It's the 3rd most morale, I believe. It could be the 2nd most after loyalty. So it's a pretty decent morale bump. It also gives tactical mitigation and crit defense, which is what I'm more concerned with. This is decent. There's probably other options you could swap this out for. Charity is a decent option. It gives you resistance and a little bit of vitality. Compassion gives too much physical mitigation for my liking, so I wouldn't recommend that one. Gives a little bit of tactical mit. But Honor is pretty good. I'd recommend Honor. Loyalty, everybody wants to build this. It gives armor, which gives physical mitigation and resistance, incoming healing, and a ton of vitality. So this one you just want to have on literally everybody. Finally, Fortitude. This is another morale bump. The only reason I have this one is just to make my morale pool even higher. I sometimes swap this out for Charity because of the resistance and vitality on that one. So this one's up to you. You could run Fortitude. You could run Charity. It's completely up to you. There's a few other options in here. Empathy's not great though. Justice is not great. Innocence is decent. It gives 3 kind of main stats, but you don't need the extra physical mitigation. So this is sort of what I ended up with and what I would recommend. This is the highest morale boost you can get, as well as the most tactical mitigation you can get from your virtues. So you got a main stat 17.5k tactical mit, 17.5k tactical mit, got an off stat 8.7k, and then you finally have a little bit of morale to top it all off. So you could get another 8,000 tactical mitigation if you wanted in here, but these are just the best for getting your tactical mits up and your morale, which are the two most important stats. So hopefully that helped you guys out. I hope I didn't go too fast there, but once again, a lot of the stuff is online on Lotro HQ. There's plenty of guides out there, so if this is maybe too quick or you didn't understand some of it, just look up the websites online, Lotro HQ, and there's a few other guide references. So some of them will disagree with me. This is my personal preference. So anyway, thanks guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.